Okay, part three. Well, now we're going to move into the Greek definitions of love. These are the ones that most of us are a lot more familiar with because we hear these then and they're used a lot more frequently. Greek definitions of love. Okay, one of the first ones, of course, is phileo. We hear that all the time. And anybody from Philadelphia should relate to this word quite easily because why? Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. Phileo, brotherly love. This is a type of love that friends have for one another. A deep, abiding friendship. You know, very much like King David and Jonathan, who was Saul's son. They had a close bond with each other. You know, and as a minimum, you know that should be the type of love that exists between a church, us within the body of Christ. All right, storge. Now this is one you may not use a lot because you don't hear this word a lot. But this is a type of love that between siblings and between children and parent, between relatives, brother and sister. So that's storge love. Okay. The next one, eros. Yeah, from erotica. Yeah, erotic. Yeah. So when we talk about eros, this is the intimate type of love. You know, the sensual, sexual type. Like it says in the briefing, in the presentation, yeah, it's the root of the word erotic. That's the type of love between man and woman, and it's nothing wrong with that. You know, sometimes I know we get all squiggly and oh my God, he said the three-letter S word. No, it's very natural. As a matter of fact, if you've ever read the book in the Bible, the Song of Solomon, that Solomon wrote. That is what that book is about. That is one of the greatest love stories that has ever been written. And as a matter of fact, God isn't specifically mentioned. Now, he's woven throughout that text. But, no, this is, that whole book. Go back and read it. Try not to blush. All right, so when we talk about the fourth kind, and this is the kind we all hear in church, everybody's talking about agape. So what is agape? This is, like I said, this is the Greek word for love at its ultimate condition. It's the most self-sacrificing love that there is from the Greek perspective. This type of love is the love that God has for us. It's the type of love that Jesus displayed on the cross. If you look at John 3:16, it said, God, so loved, agapeo, the world, that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. As a matter of fact, when you go to the book of John, same book, in chapter 21:15, there's a very interesting dialogue between Jesus and Peter. And kind of give you the backdrop. This is after Jesus had been crucified and was resurrected. There were some days that passed, 40 days or so, actually a little longer than that, I think. But he went looking for his disciples, and guess what? His disciples that he had spent all this time with, teaching and mentoring and grooming and disciplining, had gone back to the world, or had gone back fishing. And here are these men who have been trained to go out and spread the good news of the gospel. They've gone back to their old life of fishing. And the sad part of it, they weren't even good at it because they had been out there all night and didn't catch anything. And so Jesus brings this point up, and I love how he does this because to me it gives some insight into Jesus's sense of humor. So here's Jesus sitting on the bank, and he looks out, sitting on the beach probably because it's probably, I think, the Sea of Galilee or one of the seas. And then the boats are coming in, and he goes, "Hey, you got any fish? Show me your catch. Show me your produce. What did you produce all night out there?" Peter and other disciples didn't catch nothing. Didn't catch a thing. And Jesus says, "I tell you what, do this. Take your boat out there, cast your net on the other side of the boat." And I could just imagine Peter going, "Who does this guy think he is? I'm a fisherman. I've been doing this my whole life. I can catch a fish. You don't have to tell me how to catch a fish. I know how to catch a fish." So, but Peter, being obedient, threw his net on the other side, and they caught so many fish that they couldn't drag them up. They had to bring the other boat over, get these fish out. So then when they get to the shore, that's when they realize, oh man, this is actually Jesus. And Jesus is sitting there with some fish already cooked that he caught already. Man, catching fish is not that hard. So he'd already caught the fish, cleaned them, and got them on the grill cooking. Yes. So now the disciples are sitting around eating Jesus' fish. That's how we do, that we're just going to show up and eat your fish. Even though they got a net full, I'm going to eat your fish. No. So so now Jesus looks at Peter and said, Peter, do you love me? Agapeo. And Peter answered, yes, Lord, I love you. Phileo. Jesus asked one question one way, Peter answered in another. And Jesus asked him that 3 times. Peter, do you agapeo me? Do you love me more than these? More than fish, more than all these other things, more than the world system, more than money. All these things. Because he's asking us that question every day. Larry, love me more than making money, making music, making training videos. Yeah, because even though I enjoy doing this, I still have to love Jesus more. Just the mechanics of putting together Bible studies. So when we think about these 2 words, and we get these confused all the time, especially when you think about young love. You have a guy and a young boy and a young girl. Girl is like, oh, I'm just so hooked on him. Oh, do you love me? Dude is like, yeah. 2 different definitions, 2 different words. Even though they said love, communication didn't take place. Because she's probably saying, do you eros me? And, well, I love you like brother. Or vice versa, love me. Yeah, I eros you. Do you agape me? I eros you. Leo me? Nah, I have a stogie thing right now. We just you kind of like a sister, you kind of like a brother to me. So many times our feelings are hurt because what we asked wasn't what we got back in an answer with respect to love. Okay, so now when we look at these, what happens when I'm always into balance because I think God he placed this whole creation in balance. So when things get out of balance, that's when we have problems arise. So what happens when these languages of love, these love words, become out of balance? Well, one, what they do, they hinder our maturity because we should all be on a pathway to get to agape through our love walk. You just don't, you're not just there. It's a process. It's a process of getting there. But along the way, sometimes the other 3 get distorted. For instance, eros. What happens when eros, the natural intimate affection between a man, what happens when they get distorted? Well, you know what? That leads to pornography. Or sometimes on the other side of it, it leads to unhealthy self-denial. What does that mean? Well, where you have men, forbidding to marry and forbidding, to come into union with a woman. Why? That's not natural. Unless God spoke that thing into you that you're a eunuch and that's your calling. But that unhealthy self-denial. No. But it has to be done within the framework of how God has ordained it. But yeah. So what happens when phileo is out of balance? Some similar problems. Now you get into envy and jealousy, dissensions, low self-esteem, depression, all these different things. And by the way, when you're looking at the PowerPoint here, hopefully you go back and read through these scriptures. I'm not going to go open all these up. That's just for your own copious study time that you will read through those. And you never know, there might be a test question that comes out of these scriptures that I didn't talk about here on the video. But yeah, so when phileo is out of balance, all these things come. When we start, kind of goes back to our earlier one. With the triangle in part 2. Storge, and now big deal here, because this gets out of balance all the time. Interfamily rivalries, or sometimes on the other side of it, the inability to cleave and leave, meaning that you need to leave home. You need to go. And sometimes it also would lead to, incestuous relationships, like 2 Samuel 13. David's one of his sons was madly in love with his half sister, to the point that he took her, using biblical terms. Yes, he forced himself upon her. Soji, that's when that type of love comes out of balance. So now we've gone through the Greek definitions of love. Like I said, well, actually, let's go back to part one. We talked about Ahab and Hesed, the Hebrew definitions. Now we've talked about the Greek definitions of love, which was, let's go through them again if you remember. Phileo, Storge, Eros, and last one, agape, that we all should be working to. All right, let's go to part 4, perfecting love.